We are only 1.5 years into the current generation of consoles, and the first leak for enhanced consoles, aka the PS5 Pro and the Xbox Series XX or whatever it will be called, have been leaked by TCL Technology. So in today's video we are going to discuss what has been leaked, what hardware specs can we expect, what does it mean for the current generation of consoles, and when can we expect to get the enhanced consoles of this generation. Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, with a video that I actually wanted to make for a while because I wanted to ask the question if enhanced consoles do make sense in this current generation of consoles. But the guys from TCL were faster than me, and so we are going to discuss what they leaked. But before we do that, I want to ask you for a quick favor. If you enjoy this video, it would be awesome of you to consider to hit the like and subscribe button and maybe even turn on the notification bell to not miss out on future content. Okay, thank you guys, you are amazing, and now let's talk about enhanced consoles. The TV manufacturer TCL is the second largest TV manufacturer in the world, and of course they know the technology roadmap of not just the console makers but of some of the PC tech and technology roadmaps in general. Console development and TV development go hand in hand, and that was the reason why the first generation of enhanced consoles, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, were introduced, because TVs caught up with 4K technology at that time and the consoles were simply not up to date to provide 4K images. So it only makes sense that TV manufacturers are aware of the technology roadmap in the entertainment business, especially in the gaming business, and vice versa. Of course, Sony and Microsoft talk to the TV manufacturers about what features might come down the line. So like with every leak, you have to take it with a grain of salt, but it absolutely makes sense that TCL is in the knowing of what Microsoft and Sony are planning together with AMD a little down the line. So a recent leaked image shows the specification roadmap for previous console generations, and another one that is slated for the year 23 and 24. And there it clearly says a new Xbox Series X is coming, as well as the PS5 Pro. They will be able to put out 4K at 60 to 120 frames per second, and they will also be able to put out 8K at 60 to 120 frames per second, and they will utilize an RX 7700 XT GPU. So that's the leak, and we will talk about if that makes actual sense and if it's realistic in a second. But first I want to have a brief look into the specifications, because the leak specifically states that these enhanced consoles will rely on the RX 7700 XT GPU, which is scheduled to be released this year. So we have a pretty good idea of what this GPU will have in terms of specs. The 7700 XT is based on the RDNA 3 architecture. It's processed from TSMC with the 6nm process, and of course DirectX 12 Ultimate capable guarantees support for hardware ray tracing, variable rate shading and more in upcoming video games. Since a lot of people enjoy comparing teraflops, it will have around 18 teraflops, but that does not directly translate into, for instance, 50% more computational power over the 12 teraflops that the Xbox Series X has right now. The RDNA 3 architecture is more efficient than RDNA 2, and that means that the same operations can be done with less teraflops, and that means that the improvement of the computational prowess is more than just an increase in teraflops. This GPU will have 4096 shading units at 120 RPs. Of course, the dedicated GPU will have a dedicated memory of 8GB GDDR6 memory. But of course the memory has to be discussed separately, since all consoles will use an APU, and that means that on the same chip the CPU will be included and they will have a shared memory pool. No word on that CPU, but given that AMD is launching the Zen 4 CPUs this year, it is probably a safe bet that the enhanced consoles will also make use of a Zen 4 CPU. And of course the amount of RAM that will be shared is probably going to be a little bit higher than what we have today. By the way, the GPU runs at a base clock speed of 1800 MHz and it can be boosted up to 2200 MHz. Alright, so much for the specification of the GPU. It is definitely a big step upwards to the GPUs that are currently implemented in the PS5 and of course also the Xbox Series X. We know that the current gen consoles, Xbox and PlayStation, took a little bit a different approach in how they make use of RDNA 2 features. Some of them are not implemented in the PS5. The PS5 is also relying on variable clock speeds on the GPU and CPU side of things, while the Xbox Series X and S are both designed to run at fixed clock speeds for both the GPU and CPU. Now, we have zero ideas whether in the enhanced consoles Sony and Microsoft will stick to these approaches or whether one of them will copy the other, but if I would be a betting man, I would say that both will go with fixed clock speeds. Now, this is really interesting that we are getting these leaks right now, because ever since the launch of the consoles, everyone is anticipating true next-gen games. And I actually made a video about 1.5 years ago, just after the launch of the current-gen consoles, saying that within 3 or 4 years into this generation, we will probably see these enhanced consoles, and I got a lot of disagreement here. The thing is that the current-gen consoles are the most balanced and powerful consoles ever to be released when compared to the PC space at the same time they released. And that's why many people say that it doesn't really make sense that we have an enhanced console in this generation. But it's also a fact that technology moves a lot faster than the 7 or 8 year cycle that is the typical console generation cycle. Just look at the CPU market on the PC side of things. In the consoles we have Zen 2 CPUs, but on the PC side of things, Zen 3 is already out for quite a while, and like I said earlier, Zen 4 is coming this year. And similar things can be said of course for the GPU, we discussed this already, but the same goes of course for SSD speeds and all the other tech that is included in a console. 8 years is simply too slow to a state of the art these days, and if we look at the last generation, you basically have the blueprint for what is coming this generation. 3 years into the PS4 generation, the PS4 Pro launched, and if we transfer that over to the current gen, that means that the PS5 Pro would be slated for 23. The Xbox One X launched 4 years into the generation, and that would mean that the Xbox Series enhanced console launches in 24. Now granted, the current state of the world with the chip shortage, the pandemic, the war and everything that is going on, things might be a little bit later, but I would be absolutely surprised if we wouldn't see enhanced consoles this generation latest in the year 24. And yes, this might sound weird to some because we still have not seen true current gen only games that push graphics and gameplay mechanics to the next level, but that doesn't mean that technology development stands still, and enhanced models are really not hurting anyone because no one is forced to upgrade 3 or 4 years into a generation, but it is an optional thing that provides those gamers that want the best graphics, the best performance out there with an option in the console market. True current gen games are coming probably a little bit later than expected. The recent delay of Starfield is showing this, but end of 2022 and latest in 23, those current gen only games that push boundaries will start to come out, and in only a few days we will have the big showcases of this year, and that's when we will probably see some of those games in action. But with that, I already want to wrap it up. Again, like with every leak, take it with a grain of salt, but this one is a realistic one. It is something that we expect to happen, and we will probably hear an official word on these enhanced consoles next year. And I know that probably a lot of people say right now, well, you can't even buy the current gen consoles, so I might just wait for the enhanced consoles. Yes, the chip shortage is a thing, but that doesn't mean that current gen consoles haven't sold. Live to date sales for both PS5 and Xbox Series consoles are higher than ever before, and of course enhanced consoles are only optional. But yeah, it might be frustrating if you still are looking for that current gen console and you already hear about those enhanced consoles, but technology moves faster than the typical 7 to 8 year console cycle, and since enhanced consoles are again completely optional, I don't really see the downside. And the good thing is we will see this year true next gen gameplay, and that will probably start at the Summer Showfest on June 9th and of course on the big Xbox Showcase on June 12th. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and the notification bell, because I'm going to cover everything with videos and a bunch of live shows. It's exciting times for gamers, and I personally would love to have an enhanced console in the year 24, but make sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think these enhanced consoles make sense? Would you buy one? And I also want to say a big thank you to everyone who supports this channel with channel memberships to get early access to all my videos, with the super thanks in the comment section, and of course the super chats during the weekly live shows I have here on my channel. And besides here on YouTube, you can also hit me up on Twitter, where I share a lot of opinions and gaming discussions. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I see you the next time, and game on!